All right, everybody. Again, this is Terry Martine, and I am the presenter for tonight on Social Security. And I just want to touch on a couple of things just as we get kicked off here. Social Security is one of those things that I'm an advisor, fiduciary. So it's one of those things that everybody gets. However, most advisors get it wrong. And they get it wrong because they don't really spend the time with you, or they don't have the expertise of the software, or whatever the case is, to make sure that you understand on how to maximize your Social Security benefits. Again, this Social Security benefit is going to last you a lifetime. Uh, you need to maximize it because it's one of the few things that you're going to get month after month after month. And if you didn't maximize it, then it is a huge shortfall in your retirement. Because remember, this is the building block. This is block one. Whenever you look at the pyramid, this is the first thing that most advisors are supposed to look at. They don't always look at it. And then we look at your pensions and things like that. But this is the first building block, and that's why it's so important. So let's go ahead and jump right in here. Let me share that screen once more. Okay. As we go through here, though, if you do have questions, feel free to pop them in the Q&A. And I see there's a bunch of people on the YouTube channel as well. It is delayed, so I will try to go ahead and answer questions over there as well. But it is delayed about 2 minutes, and I have about 10 minutes at the end of the presentation to answer Q&A. All right, so let's dive in. First thing that you may have noticed here is that this says that in 35 years, if you work for 35 years, you should have about $1.5 million to about $1 million. What this represents is if you were working and you were putting in the Social Security over 35 years, if you account for interest and the government had a separate account for you, you would have a pot of gold of about $1 million to $1.5 million. Okay. Social Security does not work that way. For every dollar you put in, it goes out the back door to everybody else that's getting Social Security. So it would be nice if Social Security was originally set up like this, but it was not. And unfortunately, that means there's a couple of issues we're going to have to deal with, and we'll talk about that. So, first off, disclosures. I am a fiduciary as an advisor. We're not going to talk much about stock market returns, anything like that. Also, I am not an attorney. We're not even going to talk about estate planning attorney tonight. And if we do cover anything, remember, past results are no guarantee of future performance. All right. We will talk a little bit about tax, though, because tax and Social Security go hand in hand. And you really need to take a close eye on the amount, because if you can save money in taxes, for every dollar you save in taxes, that's one more dollar that you get to spend. So we are very, very aware of the tax situation, and our programs or our strategies take taxes into account, including Social Security. And again, we'll illustrate that for you. Here is the workbook. Again, we'll show you how to get that here at the end. Everybody here, all you have to do is put in your information and go ahead and download that. That gets sent to you as a PDF. No issues there. So why is Social Security such a hot topic? It's because there's so many people entering Social Security today. You look at the number, it's 280,000 people per month. We're not hiring 280,000 people per month. So there's a net drain. More people are getting Social Security than are pumping money into Social Security. That's a problem. And we'll show you how big of a problem it is. But that's 12,000 people a day. That's a lot of people turning 65. So thankfully for me, that keeps me gainfully with new clients, because these workshops are always full when I do these, especially on Social Security. All right, so what's a Social Security mean for you? And this is the thing with Social Security, is that it is your safety net. It is your retirement plan that it's going to give you anywhere between 30 and 50, sometimes 60% of your retirement budget or income plan in retirement is going to come from Social Security. So we need to take it serious and figure out how we're going to get more of that money into your own pocket. Now, back in 85, and prior to that, most people relied on corporations to give them pensions. The AT&Ts, the Xerox, the you name it. There were tons and tons of different companies out there that gave employees pensions. Well, in order to stay more competitive in a global environment, they just started eliminating those. Now, if you work for the government, state agency, things like that, there still are pensions, but by and large, most private pensions have gone away. And again, we all know that most Americans pass away with less than 10,000. So that's just because things are tough, but it's also because you are the only person that can make sure your retirement is good, and you really can't rely. The only free lunch you get here, which isn't even a free lunch because you pay for Social Security, is to make sure you're getting the most. Remember, I like to think of Social Security as an orange, and you want to squeeze as much juice out of that as you can. All right. So a couple things to ask yourself, and I briefly covered this, but really Social Security is your insurance plan to make sure you have the most you can get in retirement. The good thing is Social Security, once you start it, doesn't run out. Now, you know, even though some people have said Social Security is going to run out, it's not going to run out. They're going to fix it. We'll share how they're going to fix it. A couple different ways they can fix it, but you need to understand that getting that Social Security payment is lifetime payment. That's why we're always, always, always on the lookout to figure out how to maximize that for you, because that doesn't go away. Your health could get bad. A lot of things can change in your life, but getting your Social Security won't. All right. And the reason why we are looking at this as well is because if you are married, there's a 50-50 chance that one of you is going to live to age 93. So that's all extra money. And we have an example of this, but we have an example of how you can get the most out of this. But that's the reason why we have to look into that. Now, here's a long, I like this slide. The longest living person today, now this slide changes on occasion, but today it's this lady. She's 117 years old, and she lives in San Francisco. But I love that. It's just an example of how we can and we are living older. All right. So focus for today is pretty simple. We're going to talk about the benefit basics, how you get it, strategies for married couples, divorced couples, and widower and widow benefits as well. So we're going to primarily dig into those three things. And finally, on the last segment, I think I might have mentioned it in the call that I left, or message that I left, if I got your voicemail today, is taxes. We are going to cover how to minimize your tax. Again, for every dollar we save you, there is a dollar in your pocket. So let's talk about the basics of Social Security. Social Security covered job. In other words, you qualify if you worked for a job that paid into Social Security. And by the way, there's only a few jobs that you work at that you don't pay into Social Security. There happens to be a local junior college here in Florida that they don't pay into Social Security, but by and large, most jobs you're going to pay into Social Security. So you need 40 credits or 10 years of work. In other words, they consider a credit 3 months worth of work. So it's 1 quarter. And you need 40 quarters or 10 years. Okay. If you worked a seasonal job, this is where it can hurt you slightly, because if you worked a seasonal job for 9 months and 1 month was off, 3 months were off, then you could, in theory, have worked without one of these years counting or quarters counting. So that's always a drawback, but we can certainly look into that for you. And you get 1 credit for each quarter that you work, and you get $1,500. And again, you have to work 4 credits to equal 1 year. And I see somebody just raise their hand. Do me a favor. If you have a question, pop over to the Q&A if you're here on the Zoom call. Just pop it in Q&A and I'll be sure and answer that as they pop up towards the end. I do have some time carved out for that. So I want to make sure that I'm good with my time, but I do have time at the end. Okay. So we look at that, and then Social Security is going to count the highest 35 years index for inflation. So what does that mean? So that means that roughly in 1980, if you earn $20,000, the inflation rate, if you factor in inflation, you're adjusted for inflation, it equals about $100,000. So they're going to take what you earned in the past, they're going to adjust it for inflation, and then they're going to give you that amount over the 35 years divided by 35. And that's generally how they come up with your primary insurance allowance, PIA. Again, we'll go through some of the terms here you're going to want to know. And there are some exclusions or reductions. Again, government workers, there is a pension offset, there's a windfall elimination provision. If you're a government worker, we have separate software that we can figure out how much you get. But it is some carve outs to that. And again, some state and local governments and even some junior colleges that opt out of paying Social Security. And we got to figure that. So here's one thing too, is that I've talked to a number of people who have worked in Canada or lived in Canada, moved down here, and they may have been born in Canada, but they get a small pension benefit outside of the United States. You need to declare that to the Social Security Administration. The reason being is if they find out that you are getting $200 a month, let's say, from Canada, and you don't put that on your form, they will eventually find out, then they will stop paying you your Social Security until you have paid it all back. So do yourself a favor. This is one of those instances where there's no gray area in this. You need to claim if you're getting an outside pension, because you need to, and by the way, if you're getting $200 somewhere else, they're just going to deduct $200 from your Social Security. Even though you earned it and you earned it here in the United States, they just say, hey, look, you earned or getting money outside of the country. We just feel like cutting your benefit. So I don't think it's fair, but that's just the way they do it. Excuse me. So how does Social Security work? You contribute 6.2% of your payroll income into Social Security up to, and this is today's and it's always been adjusted, but if you did it this year, it's $168,000. So if you earn over $168,000, you no longer have to pay into Social Security, all right, which is great. So you get a little bit of a pay bump. Also, your employer doesn't have to kick in the 6.2% for you as well. So by and large, 12.4% of what you make goes toward Social Security. All right. So that's pretty hefty tax. And you just figure it as a tax. So that's pretty substantial. So again, 12.4% goes into Social Security. And again, that money doesn't get accumulated for you. That money goes right out the back door and pays for other people's benefits. All right. So what about solvency? We all hear about this, and it comes up in the papers, and it's election year. So politicians are pushing everybody's hot buttons that we're going to get rid of Social Security. Oh, no, we're not going to get rid of Social Security. You're going to get rid of, they bicker back and forth about this, but neither one of them's going to get rid of Social Security. They simply can't, because most of everybody is a voter. And that's the best insurance policy you got, is to make sure you vote. 2010, it was in the red, been in the red ever since. Fully funded through 2035. By the way, that number gets shorter and shorter every year. And that is assuming that there's no downturn in the market. Of course, we all know that's not happening. We're paying out more and more benefits. You will eventually see this probably hit 2030 by time. If you haven't taken it yet and you're not going to take it for another 5-6 years, that number will probably come all the way down to 2030. My projection, not theirs, but they are looking at things with ruby lenses, let's say. 83 cents on the dollar after that, though. So if this goes through and they pay out just what comes in, you can anticipate your $1,000 pension to be $833. Now, again, that's not going to happen. There's 4 proposals on the table to help that. They can increase the minimum retirement age. Again, right now it's 62. They might bump it to 64, 65. Increase full retirement age from 67 to 70, maybe even 72. Increase the payroll tax, 12 percent. Maybe they go up to 18%. Who knows? They love to tax people. So maybe they could do that. Maybe they'll hide it and say the employer now pays, instead of 6.2%, maybe the employer now pays 10% and the employee doesn't, but that's just a hidden tax to you and me anyhow. So not sure about that one. And they could reduce the benefits. They're not going to reduce the benefits on you and I. We're too close to retiring. But they could reduce the benefits for 30-year-olds, 20-year-olds, people not born yet. But they're going to have to figure out a way to make it solvent, because right now, the way it's going, it just simply isn't going to be solvent. All right. Oh, by the way, so Social Security, when it first came out, there were only, well, first off, let me back up. The average life expectancy for somebody that started Social Security when it first came out was 65. All right. Social Security started at age 65. So they generally didn't have a lot of people getting Social Security because they simply didn't have any people, not too many people living past the 65, your life expectancy. If they did that today, it'd be about 78, right? The average life expectancy is about 78, depending on what you read. So if they said, hey, look, everybody that's going to get Social Security, it's going to be at age 78 now, no longer 70, 67. That would be big swing. I don't think they're going to do it that way. But if it were like it was in the past, that's what they would end up doing. All right, so a couple of things here. I'm going to use this example, and for most of you, it's probably 67 now. But for ease of this chart, I kind of like this chart because I'm used to it. But if you are 62 years old and you want to get your Social Security, you will get a 75% reduction if you take it early. Now, doesn't mean that you aren't allowed to take it, because you are. You are entitled. This is an entitlement for you, but you will take a 25% haircut if you start it early. And you see every year that you wait, it goes up roughly 8%. Full retirement age on this graph, 66. For yours, could be 67. Remember, it's adjusted now. And if you wait to age 70, you can get 132%. So you can go all the way from 75% to almost double, just shy of double your Social Security benefit. But by the way, if you really account for the cost of living increases, because cost of living increases are generally about 2 to 2.5%. You take this 75%, if you go all the way out here, it's actually more than double, because what they do not show you on this chart is the fact that you get a 2.5% on average cost of living increase as you go up the ladder as well. So yeah, our software takes care of that. If you decide to come see us and you want an analysis, we'll break it down a lot more detail than just this chart. All right, so 3 distinct Social Security benefits. Retired worker, that's the benefit you and I get. It's based on your own record. Spousal benefit, that's provided by your spouse. Let's say it's divorce benefit, or you can get half of your spouse's benefit. And widow or survivor's benefit. And that's a benefit you get if your spouse passes away. Okay. So we'll talk briefly about those. The Bipartisan Act of 2015, it really just got rid of file and suspend. They got rid of all the bells and whistles and people that were gaming the system. So you can no longer kind of game the system. It's pretty much plain vanilla, and everybody has to play by the same set of rules now. There's no more gaming the system. So filing options. Again, this is where it's important to understand that you got 365 days from the time you file to fix any mistakes, or to go back in and pay all the money back. And what you're doing is you're suspending your benefit. I've only had one client in 20 years that's tried this, and he didn't even do it successfully, but he got a major inheritance. He had started taking Social Security early. He had just started a couple months, and he called Social Security, but the issue was, it was when COVID was in, and I don't know if you know this or not, but everybody worked at Social Security Administration, got sent home, and were working from home. You couldn't talk to anybody. The lines were long. I mean, there weren't any lines. The phone lines were long. And by the way, if you tried to call them, you need to make sure you had a full battery, because by the time you get a hold of somebody, it may take you 4 to 6 to 8 hours in order to get a hold of somebody at Social Security. Finally, he just gave up. Called a couple times, waited on hold 4 or 5 hours, just said, you know what, I'm just going to keep it. I said, well, with all the trouble he's going through, I could see why. But again, 365 days to fix any problems. If there is a problem, you got to fix it within that first year. All right. That's important. That's an important takeaway. So, spousal benefit, you got to be married for at least a year. Primary worker must have filed. So, that's important. If you are going to be taking a spousal benefit, one of you has got to file. The other can take the spousal benefit, but one of you has to file. If the other one is waiting to age 70 to file, your spouse can't file because you haven't filed yet. So this is an important distinction. This is, again, one of the important takeaways. And that's to know that if you are going, like if you're a stay-at-home mom or any of those kind of things, and you are going to be taking half of your spouse's Social Security, you got to wait till they file in order for you to get your benefit. This is an issue. This can be an issue. Let's put it that way. All right. And the other thing too is that you get 50% of your spouse's primary insured amount. If they wait to age 70, you don't get half of the amount they got at age 70. You only get the half of the amount that is their full retirement age. And in that prior example, remember I used age 66. So let's suppose, here's a quick example. Let's suppose John here did get $2,000 a month. He has to file before Jane can get her $1,000 a month. Okay. And let's say John here waits. He goes, oh, I'm getting $2,000 a month. I'm just going to wait to age 70. And then my $2,000 a month is going to go up to 2,700, 2,800. That means Jane could not file for those additional 4 years. She had to wait. Again, this is an important distinction. So if you're talking to somebody, make sure they understand how this works. A lot of times people come to me and like, oh, no, I'm just going to get half. Not unless that spouse has already filed. Okay. So again, here's kind of the breakdown. If your spouse has filed early, you get not even a cut, but you get a serious cut in addition to it. So if your spouse files early, let's say they get 75% of their base. In that prior example, it was $2,000. So 75% of 2,000 is 1,500. You now get 70% of the 2,000. So now you get 1,400. It's reduced. So you have to make sure that you are, I'm sorry, it's 70% of half. So it impacts you even more because half now is substantially less. So you need to make sure you're aware of that. And also, if your spouse decides to wait, again, you can only get 100% of your spouse's Social Security, half. Anyhow, I know there's a lot of math. This is always kind of a confusing slide to some people, but suffice it to say, if your spouse files early, you get a penalty. If your spouse files late, you get a penalty. Okay, that's the important takeaway. At death of the first spouse, the surviving spouse can receive a maximum. Okay, so you don't get the spouses plus yours. They never add on. They just give you the maximum of the two. All right. I get that question a lot. So you get his or her benefit, your own benefit. If your benefit's higher than your spouse's, obviously you're not going to take a decrease in pay. The benefit of the deceased. So that's good. If your deceased was the highest income earner, or we do a strategy where the highest income earner delays to age 70, and then we start early with the other spouse. I'm just giving you some strategies we use to try to maximize some things. You can maximize it, but again, if your spouse, your deceased spouse, filed early, again, you take a loss of 17.5%. They do penalize you heavily across the board if you end up taking Social Security before your full retirement age. Okay. So a couple of common mistakes that we see. Higher wage earner files early. That does two things. It really is a shortcoming because now your spouse doesn't get the highest benefit because they would, in theory, get yours if you pass away. And both of you delay past full retirement age. We never really kind of try to do that for strategy reasons. And again, I could show you kind of the breakdown, but we always want one of the spouses to file at the full retirement age at a minimum, sometimes early. And we want the other one to delay to age 70. And typically the one who has the shortest lifespan. That's generally how we work that. All right. So some of the considerations for divorced, you've got to be married for 10 years, not currently married. You can't go out and get remarried and then file for spousal or divorce benefits. Same benefit amounts apply. So if your spouse filed early, you get a reduction. If they waited, you get a reduction. So, I mean, you get the full amount, but it doesn't benefit you if the spouse waits. And independently entitled, meaning you have to be divorced for 2+ years. So this is important. I catch this on occasion. I just got off, well, not too long ago with an accountant and client. And the accountant told the person, well, you just got divorced, just file for divorce benefit. I'm like, no, you got to wait 2 years. Accountant said, no, you can go ahead and do that. I said, all right. Anyhow, accountant called me back and said, yeah. Looks like she can't get it for 2 years. I went, yeah, all right. So that sometimes these rules change, but obviously that rule didn't. So you got to be divorced for 2 years. So common questions we hear the main thing is if you're not on speaking terms with your ex-spouse does not get notified that you are filing on their claim. They don't even know you filed on their claim, nor does it affect their Social Security benefit either. All right. So don't worry about that. If you're not on speaking terms with your ex, don't worry about it. They're not going to know. Doesn't affect their claim. They can't stop you from making your own claim. All right. So just don't worry about it at all. Perfectly simple. Considerations for widow and widower. There are some special benefits if you are a widow or a widower. You can file early, which means not 62, but you can actually file at 60 years old for widow or widower benefits. Unmarried. So you have to be unmarried. If you get remarried before you hit age 7, or I'm sorry, age 60, then you do lose your qualification for your married benefits. Now, you need to be married for a minimum of 9 months prior to death. And this is really to stop people from being on their deathbed and getting married and passing along their benefit. IRS will disqualify you for that. However, there are special exemptions. If your husband, wife, one of you is in the service, you get shipped overseas, you get killed in action or something, they will make waivers for that. It's just to prevent this deathbed scenario, which, is happening. People will find a way to game the system, and that's one of the ways they were doing it. So here's a quick example of a widowed client example. So John passed away at 64, and he was married to his wife, who was not 64. She was 59. His benefit was 2,150. Her benefit was 1,197 at 62. All right, so a couple clarifications I want to make here. First off, John's benefit at age 64 when he died was 2,150. Jane was not married at 59. If she comes to me and she's 59 years old and she goes, I just met the man of my dreams, I would tell her, great, do not get married until you're 60. Okay, don't want to lose this benefit. And her own benefit was $1,197. So she comes to us and says, okay, what can I do? All right, this is my situation. What can I do? Say, okay, well, let's try to figure out what scenario works best for you to maximize your Social Security benefit. First, you could take your spousal benefit. Remember, you can start that at age 60. I'm sorry, widow benefit. You start at age 60 and you get 1,537 a month. Her life expectancy is 85. So she can expect to get 460,000 out of Social Security. All right. So that's option one, strategy one. Strategy two is she could file for her benefit at age 62 and then switch to the widow benefit. I'm sorry, at 67, which is 2,150 a month. So that just increased her Social Security benefit in her lifetime by $70,000. All right. This is why I suggest that if you do want to figure out how to maximize your Social Security benefit, take advantage of our free workshop or free Social Security planning, because this is what we go through. All right. This is how we pull this apart and we say, all right, this is the strategy that's going to work for you. So strategy one, she would have got 460. She didn't talk to anybody. Strategy two, 538. And we say, well, you do have one final strategy you could do as well. So you could start at age 60, get your widow benefit, and then wait until age 70 to start taking your own benefit, which is a delayed retirement. Remember, now she's getting 135 basically percent increase from her retirement. And now she's getting 560,000. So let me ask you, which one would you want? Would you want to get $460,000 in retirement out of Social Security, or would you rather get 560,000? Most people are going to say, I'd rather get 560,000. Okay. So this, just by doing a quick little benefit analysis for her, we showed her how she could get an extra $100,000 in Social Security. By the way, she wasn't married. If you look at this as far as helping married couples figure out how to best file for Social Security, sometimes we can save or increase somebody's Social Security benefits by 100, 150, almost $200,000 by just making slight changes to your retirement plan. All right. All right. So can you work and still collect? I believe the guy's name was Brian. I think it was Brian who asked us this before the workshop got started. The amount, again, is here, 22,320. What does that mean? That means that if you are working and your full retirement age, let's say, is 67, you can earn up to and including $22,320. If you earn $42,320, you will lose $10,000 of your Social Security payment. And the way they do it is they just simply don't pay you for months on end. And then when you finally pay back, they consider it paying back the amount that you're over, then they start your Social Security benefit. But it is $1 for every two over the limit. And again, not many people really worry about the year that they hit full retirement age. But again, even in full retirement age, if you've earned over $59,000, they do claw some of that back. And again, you come see us, we'll put that together for you. But the main question I ask clients is this: if you're going to work, don't file early. If you're going to work and you think that you're going to earn more than $22,000, now, if you're going to volunteer at your church or you're going to do some things like that, you can do, I mean, you're not going to earn $22,320. All right. So I got plenty of guys that go to work at Home Depot, Lowe's. They just love greeting people and they make a little bit of money. I think they do it because they get discount on tools. Most garages I see of guys that are doing that are, tool guys. But anyway, 22,320 is the key number here to earn. So again, remember I talked about Social Security and taxes and how the two go hand in hand. There is a form, publication 915, that talks about how your Social Security gets taxed. So this is super important because it's not how much you get taxed on Social Security. It's how much of your Social Security gets taxed. All right. So they got this own little term here called provisional income. And it's the amount that they're going to tax you on your Social Security, essentially how much your Social Security you get tax-free. This is how it works. All right. First thing is that you need to figure out how much Social Security you get. In this example, you're going to get $24,000, so this person gets 24,000. You just divide it by 2. So it's $12,000. All right. So in this example, you get paid $24,000 in Social Security, $2,000 a month. You take half of it. So it's $12,000. Now you combine any other earned income. Now this includes CD income. This includes pension income. This includes any other sort of income, dividends from, well, you never really had to worry about dividends from your checking accounts until recently. They didn't pay much, and most of them don't still pay much. But yeah, any of your earned income. Okay. So you got to figure that out and add it. So you figure $12,000. Okay. So we see $12,000 because it's half of what you got paid in Social Security. And you add on any earned income that you have, right? So that's $15,000. So in total here, you got $27,000. And I'm going to flip to the chart here in 1 second. But before I do, I think it's important that I point out here, you can avoid paying taxes on your Social Security if you take money out of Roths. There's 3 ways you can do it. If you take money out of Roths, you have property that you are depreciating and some insurance products. Okay. There's 3 ways you can do it. Roth IRAs, depreciating assets like real estate, or also life insurance, cash value life insurance. Those are the 3 ways to get around increasing the amount you get in Social Security. Municipal bonds are included. So for those of you who are living in states where you're in high tax states, New York, California, some of the others, Illinois, there's a bunch. But if you are buying municipal bonds, you do not get to exclude that payment or those interest payments on this form. Okay, it's important for those of you who are, I think municipal bonds are lowering your taxes. They do not help you in this instance. All right. There's only 3 ways to do it. So now, excuse me, back to the form. You got $27,000. All right. So let's roll that forward and see how much we owe in tax. If you're single, 27,000 falls between this line, which means half of your Social Security gets taxed. Depending on what tax bracket you're in, this could affect you, but half is going to be taxable. Okay. If in the event you are married, and again, we had $27,000, it is below 32, which means you're not taxed on any of your Social Security. This is why this is important. So for those of you that have $1 million IRAs, $1 million 401ks, so forth and so on, this is one of the keys that we'll talk about here towards the end. But there is a way that you can convert using one of the 3 or all of the 3 strategies we just talked about: a life insurance, Roth conversions, and certain property assets to depreciation. And you could, in theory, even though you're making $200,000 a year, if that money is coming from tax advantaged accounts, you owe zero on your Social Security. All right. Usually this is where the Q&A starts popping up with a lot of questions. I will cover a little bit more in detail about this, but this is kind of an advanced strategy, but we can do it when we have done it for other clients as well. All right. So here's a quick client example. You got a married couple, 64, 62, $34,000 in Social Security at age 62. All right. So that's important. They are getting Social Security if they file early of $34,000. They have $750,000. By the way, this is a client example. They say, okay, Terry, this is what I got. I've got $34,000 if we file today. My wife and I got $750,000 in 401ks and IRAs. I need 6% annual return, and we're going to assume that cost of living is 3% or inflation's at 3%. Now, again, here's the thing with inflation. We all know that it was higher, much, much higher. Remember, inflation is the rate of change over time. It's not the dollar value that things have gone up. So in other words, some things have doubled from 3 years ago, 4 years ago, and inflation is at 3%. if you look at how much it doubled by 100%. But inflation now is lower. I shouldn't say it's low, but it's lower. So you just have to understand that inflation is a rate of change or a derivative number. It's not a true number unless you take a point in time versus a point in time. All right. They always try to trick people thinking inflation is so much lower than what it is. But anyhow, that's a topic for another day. All right. Back to this example. Married, 34,000, 750,000 in assets, but they need $70,000. They say, okay, this is what we got. We need $70,000 a year. How can you help us? We say, all right, good. Well, let's take a look and see what we have here. Again, living expectancy here is 86, 89. So we put this in our programming software. And by the way, most of you who have ever talked to a financial advisor are going to have this, right? You're going to see something like this. The red line is how much they need. The orange line above the red is taxes. You always have to pay taxes. The orange line below the red line is how much they've pulled out of their 401k. And the blue line is simply their Social Security. So they file early. And you notice here, it's a little bit strange, right? So you notice on year 24, where's the orange line? So we're kind of curious about that. But what happened here is that in this example, they ran out of money. So they went the 24 years in their retirement. They're both still alive, but they have run out of money. That is not a good financial plan. It's good, not a good financial plan for me. Put it together for you. Certainly not a good financial plan for the client, right? So that is not good. We say, all right, what can we do? We know that this is kind of the worst case example. What advantage do you have if we just took care of your Social Security and maximize it? We're only changing one variable. Everything else stays the same. You'll see that you're taking more money out in the beginning years. You're taking more money out of your 401k. So you are drawing down your 401k. This orange above the red line, remember, is taxes. So you are paying a little bit more in taxes. So keep that in mind. But you see, they start about year 8 and year 9. This is when they hit age 70. They're starting to maximize their Social Security benefit. And you see, okay, now they're paying a little bit less in taxes. But before, remember, they ran out of money year 24. Well, here, just by changing the one variable, again, it's just Social Security, we just maximize it for them. Told them, hold off, wait until age 70. Let's see what the result is. You can see here that you still have money in retirement. All right. Say, all right, well, that looks good, but what is the net result? So they ended up with $186,000 more of additional Social Security value. One change, simple change, they got $186,000 more in Social Security. They also were able to get 14 more years out of their assets they retired with. Remember, they retired with $750,000, but just by making that one little switch, one little change, they were able to get 14 years. Ask yourself, would you want $186,000 more in Social Security just by making one little simple change? Hopefully it's yes. If I could look out here and look at everybody's eyes, I'm sure you're shaking your head yes. Would you want 14 more years out of your portfolio in case you live longer than what you thought? Yes, you do. You absolutely want to maximize or make sure that your portfolio lasts a long time. Preferably after you pass away, so you have a legacy. But we'll talk about that another day. And so you got 3 benefits here. You paid $35,000 less in taxes, even though you pulled out 14 more years of assets out of your 401k plan. All right. So this is why we do it. This is why we offer the analysis for folks, because unless you go through here and really pick this part and do a deep dive into Social Security and how it affects you and how you maximize it, we just don't know. I mean, you could take a guess, but who doesn't want extra money, extra longevity? and to pay less in taxes. This is an easy one. All right. So about your statement. First off, your statement does not include the cost of living increase. So it's underestimating the amount you are going to get. Like, for instance, if you're 62, just had a lady sent me one today, 62 years old, and she plans on waiting to 66. She works for a school district. She plans on waiting to 66. I said, okay, well, that's great. Let's say that her benefit was $2,000 a month. I said, the interesting thing here is two things, really. One is that there is no cost of living increase applied to this over the next 4 years. Again, she wants to wait till age 66. So over the next 4 years, we don't know what the cost of living increase is going to be. And as a result, Social Security does not know that either. So they're not going to show you that on your statement. And it assumes that you're going to work till that age. For instance, for her at age 66, let's say she got the $2,000 a month. It assumes that she works until age 66. And because these are her highest earning years, it's going to assume that she's going to make $65,000, $80,000 for the district until she hits age 66. So it underrepresents if you file early and you don't work. Okay. But it overrepresents, I'm sorry, it underrepresents if you file because you don't have the cost of living increase timed in there. And it overrepresents or underrepresents if you don't work between the time you get your statement and the time that you start your benefit. All right. And it's your record only. So there's no way to talk about your spouse, how you figure out, all right, well, I'm going to take my spouse's, half of my spouse's. Let's do a divorce program. Let's do a widower's program. It doesn't know. Your Social Security statement does not know. You have to call Social Security and you have to find somebody that's got some sort of analysis software to help you with that. All right. And Social Security is not allowed to give you any advice. They simply don't allow their agents to do that. What happens if an agent gives you bad advice and says, yeah, you know what, you should wait or you should not wait. You should start your benefit now. You won't get any benefit down the road. Not good. Not good. You could essentially sue Social Security Administration. That's why they don't give you any advice. They've been told not to. You're lucky if you've got a spouse, divorced spouse, if you can even find out how much your benefit's going to be, because they are very tight-lipped about that as well. So anyway, the Roth rollout strategy. This is the strategy I talked a little bit about that we'll briefly cover. And what this does is it allows you to get more money in retirement. Now, how does it do that? I'll take a quick example because I think illustrations generally do it justice easier than me just talking about, the process. So if you got a married couple, by the way, this is one of our clients. So married couple, both work for the government. They did not need investment income. In other words, there are two pensions, there are two Social Securities covered their basic needs. And they didn't really need much in the way of investment income. They plan on doing things for different charities and plans with vacations and things. But by and large, they didn't need any of their income. And they were able to save about $1.3 million in retirement. So they're able to save about $1.3 million. You say, okay, well, why would I show you this? I show you this because this isn't uncommon. I have plenty of people that come to me and say, well, I've got about $1 million in Roth or 401k or IRA. By the way, this strategy works for anyone with $250,000 or more. More means that we can save you more, and we do conversions. It'll save you much, much more in taxes, but it works for anybody with $250,000 or more. All right. So I just want to tell you about the strategy real quick. This is what this couple would be facing if they did not do a Roth strategy, a Roth strategy. You see here later in life, because of required minimum distributions, you see this isn't how much money they earned. This is the taxes view. They later in life are going to pay the government $500,000 a year and 2052 because the required minimum distributions are so high and it pushes them up so high in tax brackets. Okay. It's not the fact that, they can keep their tax bracket low. This is what the strategy does. But if you do not do anything, you say, well, you know what? I'm not going to do anything. This is what you're going to owe later in life. $500,000 checks to the IRS. Even here, you're paying $175,000 to the IRS. It's all because the required minimum distributions keep pushing you higher and higher and higher in the tax brackets. And this illustration only shows you the tax rates as of today. If you're under the mindset like I am, tax rates are going to go up in the future, guess what? This only gets worse. You say, all right, Terry, that's enough. What can somebody do? They do this Roth rollout strategy. Again, it's a proprietary strategy we put together, but this is just generally shows how much money you would save or lose. And what it does is it says, okay, if we front run or we do Roth conversions, and again, there's a couple different ways we do this, but if we do some Roth conversions, we can pay the taxes now at a lower tax bracket. And what that does is shows the red shows the increase in tax. Okay. Now you do get an increase in tax because you are paying it today, but it shows you all of the green is tax savings. So instead of writing a check here for $500,000 in 2052, you end up writing a check for $125,000. Now, let me ask you, which would you rather do? Would you write a check for $125,000 or would you write a check, or would you like to write a check for $500,000 to everybody's favorite 3-letter acronym, IRS? So this is and does save you a ton of money if it's available to you. Again, it's not available to everybody, but by and large, $250,000 or more, this strategy really works. And the more you have in there, the more imperative it is that you address this. Because without a strategy, I mean, it's simply, there's no reason to do that to yourself. A couple of benefits. One is that you're paying less in taxes, and also whatever money that you leave as a legacy, you've already paid the taxes for them as well. So I know I get some people that say, hey, look, they're on their own. I save the money. They can pay the taxes on it. But this is one way to also reduce your own taxes. And so you look at that and you say, okay, well, what does this equate? So you pay the tax here, but you save it here. I don't know, a bunch of red and green lines. Not sure what that actually means, but just doing a rough calculation. Remember, this hasn't been fine-tuned, but just doing a rough calculation by doing this conversion, this Roth rollout, these clients are going to save $1 million. That's a lot of money. They're going to save $1 million in taxes. So that $1 million can go in your pocket or it can go into the IRS's pocket, but we prefer, and I hope you prefer, to keep it in your own pocket. All right. So why you would want our free Social Security analysis? We offer this free. You do get a workbook for free if you want to do it on your own. If you want us to help you through this process, we are more than happy to do that. Why would you want that? Because the first thing is that we are going to coordinate benefits and we're going to maximize your Social Security. But not only are we going to show you how to maximize your Social Security, but we're going to give you we're going to show you exactly how much. So we're going to break it down. We all know that if you wait to age 70, you're going to maximize it. Maybe that doesn't work for you though. But maybe we show you that, hey, look, if we wait an additional year, we use money out of your 401k plan, it actually increases the amount you get in Social Security and also increases the time or the longevity of your IRAs and 401ks as well. Again, what we also do is coordinate the benefit. If you're married, divorced, you're getting some sort of widow benefit. We need to know that. So we are going to help you put that together. That's super important. I showed you the example. And how to bridge the gap if you're going to delay. Let's say that, fine, okay, you figure out, okay, I'm going to delay it. I'm going to do a Roth conversion. I'm going to do all these certain things, but I still need money, right? You still need money to live on. Where do I get that money? How do I maximize income out of a portfolio? Where do I get it? Who gives the best rates? Do I do all CDs? Do I ladder a bond portfolio? Do I use dividend paying stocks? We help you bridge that. Okay, that's one of the things that we do. Again, that's in our system. And this is a quick example of some of the things that you get visually. It's a 30-page report about Social Security, but it's going to talk to you all about your break even, how much you're going to get, how much you're going to need to bridge the gap, what we do to bridge that gap, how we make sure that you're made whole, how we get earnings, how you pay yourself, all this stuff. We do this analysis for you. It does take a couple days to obviously do this, but let me ask you. If we show you how to increase your Social Security by 50, 60,000, by the way, we showed you that estimate for one person, one single person, that was over 100 or roughly $100,000. But if we can show you how to increase your Social Security by 50 to 60,000, if we can lower your taxes by $100 to $200,000 by using a Roth rollout strategy, again, in that example with the married couple, it was $1 million, but hey, let's say that you had 250,000. But if we showed you how to get or lower your taxes by 100 to 200,000 using our strategy, wouldn't that help? And increase your legacy by 25%. So the one thing that this also does is that if you save, or let's suppose you give as a legacy, your kids or whoever's going to inherit your property, and you pay the taxes on it, and they don't pay the 25 to 37% on taxes, you have essentially increased the legacy or the amount that you are going to be giving your beneficiaries by 25 to 37%. So again, if you come see us and we do the strategies for you, we're going to put all these pieces together for you. But would it be worth it? Would it be worth it to increase Social Security, lower your tax, and increase your legacy? This is what we do. This is why that we put this together. And we certainly hope that you agree that it was be very, very much worth it to set up a time. All right. So again, what you're going to get is the Social Security analysis if you set up a time with us, the workbook, and the Roth rollout strategy. Here is the URL, maxoursocialsecurity.com. I did put that in the chat. So if you want, for everybody that is on Zoom, if you want, you can click on maxoursocialsecurity.com to go ahead and set up an appointment or to get your workbook. And this is what the page looks like. Oh, sorry. You just put in your name, address, email, phone number. And again, if you want, I would suggest that you set up a time if you want to get the free analysis that we talked about, where you get everything. Just click yes, and you can set up a time to talk to us and get your analysis done. All right, so hopefully that was informative, and I do have just 5 minutes left to answer questions. So let me go ahead and decrease that. And again, if you are on the Zoom, please feel free to go ahead and click the Q&A. Here's a quick question. It says, my wife passed away and we were married 15 years. Can I claim or get additional Social Security benefit? It depends on how much the benefit is. My suggestion to you is to fill this out and pick a time that you want to talk to me, because it depends on how much your Social Security, your wife's Social Security benefit is. Again, it may be beneficial for you to file for widower benefits at age 60. Again, I don't know how old you are, but you can file for benefits there. Postpone your benefits until age 70. And when you turn 70 years old, you can switch to your benefit. You do have that capability, and maximize the amount you get remember in the example I just showed you, somebody was able to maximize it and get an additional about $100,000. So that's quite a big benefit. Again, if you want, you can go ahead and set up a time, and we'll talk about that. But you need to know your wife's Social Security benefit. Social Security typically will tell you that if she's deceased. If you want to get divorced benefits, that's a little trickier because that person's still alive and Social Security has been told not to give out benefits. But that's one way to do it. Couple other questions here while we're on that. Mickey says that you were not able to fill out the form. Mickey, send me in the questions or the Q&A your email address, and I will go ahead and get you that form. I'm not sure why it's not working. Anyhow, I'd have to check it, but maybe you can refresh it. maxoursocialsecurity.com. I just had somebody request it a little bit earlier today and it was working then. So hopefully it works now. And I'll send everybody out an email if you want. You can download it from the email that I send out after this as a follow-up. Next question. Can someone who is receiving Social Security benefits entitled to receive Social Security benefits also? No, so you don't get two Social Security benefits. If you are receiving Social Security benefit and you are entitled to a higher Social Security benefit, yes, you can get the higher amount. Never two benefits. That's not exactly true. All right, here's how it works. You really do get two benefits, but you're going to get your benefit and they do a supplemental to get you the highest benefit. So technically you do get your benefit and you get an add-on benefit, but you don't get your benefit and somebody else's benefit. Remember, it's a high water, either your benefit, spouse's benefit, and if your spouse passes away and yours was lower, you can go up to your spouse's, but you can never get higher than one of the two. All right. It's always the maximum of either you or your spouse. That's how they work it. You're welcome. Yes. I try to be, as quick as I can with this, but I want to do it justice. So that's why I typically go ahead and fill out the whole hour. And second person said that they weren't able to download the form as well. So here, what I'm going to do is because I can't do this. Why don't I do this? After this call, I'll send you an email and a text. I'll send everybody an email to a text to the form again, so that you can go ahead and get it filled out so you can download it. It'll also have a schedule. Does anybody know, were you able to at least, if you clicked yes and hit submit, did it take you to the form or is it just locking up? Actually, you know what? Here, let me do this. Let me stop the share here real quick because I want to make sure that this is working. So let me go ahead over here to the PowerPoint. Let me go ahead and try it myself, because if we're having issues, I want to make sure that we get that taken care of. All right. So this is YouTube. Obviously, I don't need YouTube right now. Max Our Social Security. maxoursocialsecurity.com. I like it when I lean forward and my head takes up the whole screen. Oh, you know what I think it is? I think you have to do www. Www dot. Okay. I think that's okay. So when you go to fill out the form, it is, and let me fix it on the chat. Let me go ahead and open up the chat here real quick. Chat, where are you, chat? Okay. So in the chat, it's www.maxoursocial. Okay. It didn't turn it blue, but it's maxoursocialsecurity.com. And actually, let me go ahead and lower. Let me go and share my screen here with you. So this is what you'll see. If you do www.maxoursocialsecurity.com, it basically directs you to this form where you can type in all your information. And then if you wanted to, you can click yes if you wanted to set up a time for us to do the analysis for you. And then you just submit. And it brings you up to our calendar. You can just pick a time. And then you pick a time here that you like, and then that's how you schedule. All right. So let me go back. So again, it's www.maxoursocialsecurity.com. Sorry, the HTTP, there's something in there that doesn't direct it to the form. I have had that happen once before, so I'm glad somebody pointed that out to me. All right, so let me go back over Q&A. I'll answer one more, and then we'll go ahead and wrap this up. A couple more people said they couldn't fill out the form. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. So just www.maxoursocialsecurity.com, and you'll be able to fill out the form. All right, so look, I appreciate everybody joining this. I think tonight, most people, this is your first workshop that we've done together. I do have a couple of different workshops that I do. One's on Roth conversions, insurance, Medicare. You know, I've got a couple of sequences that I do. Now that you've joined this one, I generally send out emails. If you're interested in joining any of the other ones, you're more than happy to do that as well. But it's all about retirement planning. But this is the key. Social Security is the key. This is the one that I do the most of. This is the one that I'm most proficient at because this is the building block. And if you have an advisor that hasn't gone through this with you, you really should sit down with them and say, okay, look, you need to figure this out for me, or give us a call and we could help you sort through it as well. All right. So again, thank you very much for everybody for joining. Appreciate you being on the call and look forward to seeing you soon. Bye now.